Triple kill.
Hey, what's up guys? Today this is my first video essay, so today I'm gonna talk about Halo Infinite and what do I think. I'm going to break this into campaign and multiplayer and my overall conclusion. And let's start with the campaign. So I can't help but try to convey my ideas on what has been said by the studio about the Sleep Space engine and how it was touted as a beast. So let's see how it really feels. Let's start with the cinematics animations. I believe that this is a very good start for the studio. The animations are simply surreal and they feel so good in the way how they interact with the player. They feel fluid. The way the animation takes over the screen when you press the interact button, it is something that I haven't felt in too many games and I really like that feeling. I feel that this type of cinematics is the way to go for this gameplay. The Cortana model feels conservative, like they didn't want to push for next gen model, but neither they want to use Cortana from Combat Evolved, so it seems like a good rendition of Cortana. As here as you can see, the animations, the colors, the lighting, it feels a little bit like in between gen, like in between that Xbox One X and in between what we could call next gen. You can see the shininess of the metals, you can see how it runs, the effects. I really like the interaction in these cases with the cinematics and character lines that Chief says every time we found a down Spartan just like this. Here you can see the flickering on the screen. This is something that even happens from time to time when you're playing. I'm not sure what is happening or what is triggering, but I'm very lenient that it has to do with DirectX 12 and exclusive full screen. This game is borderless full screen and sometimes this flickering happens when you're in game. The lighting and the immersion, the blur of the cinematics is simply superb. Please see for yourself how it looks, how it plays, the contrast, the animations, how it is actually running more than 60 frames because the cinematics are done in-game. This simply feels very surreal and it gives you a way of flow, no cinematic bars, no horizontal lines on the bottom, like on the bottom on the top. It just feels very nice. Here we also have a little bit of art and how it meshes right with the environment. So you can see that most of these shapes, they're very geometrical. I know it has to do with the way that Forerunners are described in the Halo lore, but I really think they should push for a more modern approach, like really push textures, bump mapping more into next gen. As you can see here, you can see full screen effects, illumination, models. It feels fine, it feels great, especially because we're seeing this at a higher frame rate than usual, and the cinematics just feel surreal. I think there are minor details with the animations, but I really like them and enjoy them. It was one of the things that I enjoyed the most when I was playing the campaign. It was just finding these animations because they were really immersive, and that's something that I think every game must follow. In terms of what is happening here, I'm trying to put like content that is not really, giving spoilers away, so it's really more like an essay. So for you, this would be like random examples of the art. You can see the Master Chief, let's say armor, it's better than the way it was presented, but it still definitely feels like it could be better. The way the metal is shined, the way it's done, I know it looks like it was worn and torn, and we agree on that. But for example, look at the visor. The visor looks like opaque in this area, where it kind of shouldn't. So I think there are some details that we could get a better grasp of it and make them better, but it's something that clearly is not here right now. Also, another thing is, for example, we're lacking the use of ray tracing, something that is very buzzed today, and I think we should get a little bit of ray tracing in some parts, or at least something that is not cost intensive in terms of PC optimization and the cost of the computing power, but simply get a little bit of that ray tracing experience. Here you can see the details, the textures are incredibly detailed. You can see here the glass, the Forerunner architecture, it looks very nice. I also like and enjoy this customization on the way on the campaign, because you can actually, let's say, evolve your Master Chief armor kind of in your own way. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Destiny, where you could choose your, let's say, your skill tree based on what you want. Here you can have a little bit of, some customization, calls for your players, audio logs, things that you have picked up during the way. I clearly haven't picked them all of yet. No skulls, that's sad. But yeah, here you can see the upgrades. I'm definitely upgrading mostly the grapple. The grapple feels amazing. It's one of the best things I've seen in Halo introduced since, I don't know, Halo 2 maybe, with the dual wield. But I really like the grapple shot. Here I want you to see the architecture, the textures, how they shine, the lights. This is the Master Chief light, by the way, just like the headlamp he has on his helmet. Here you can see the detail on the architectural textures on the Forerunners. You can see there's a lot of detail coming here. And this is something I want to make sure that we get across. There are assets in the game that has a lot of details. And it's something that is the way to be. I like the experience of the hugeness of the map, how the map feels simply surreal in terms of expansion. Like it's huge. You can actually literally do anything you want on the map. It kind of feels like some GTA kind of game where you are actually free to do something, or to do anything, if you would call it that way. So tracking back again on the art and texture of the game, I want to show you some of the things that I'm quite a bit of an explorer. I typically don't try to find for, let's say, bugs or glitches or mistakes, to say it in a way. But you're gonna see that sometimes in certain areas you will find assets that are really extremely high quality, like textured bump maps, illumination, reflections. But then you find it next to another asset that's not quite really to that same level of detail. So you get a contrast, right, between this high level asset and this other asset that is simply quite not yet there. And you only have to wonder if this is something related either to the engine, either to how the engine uses the resources, or simply how are those resources cut back. What I mean cut back is, to maintain a playable experience in the consoles, because I truly think this game was designed and optimized for console and then probably ported back to PC, and we'll get on touch. We'll expand on that later.
Dangerous.
And Despondent Pyre?
No.
So here we're in another, campaign attribute where we're here exploring. Basically, we're looking at these rays, doing something over there on the core of the map, and you see there's high quality lighting. And you see here the brutes. They're kind of not very good quality. Part of the combat feels amazing, surreal. That part is really not even debatable. The game it's at its peak. The weapons are perfectly fine in campaign. They feel surreal. For example, this model of the Mangler. Personally, you can see it here. I feel it looks a little bit dull. Like it could look a lot better, right? And the reflections. Here's one of the things that I like the most, like this animation. It's just amazing. In terms of the animations of let's say the face of the characters, especially the enemies, I think there's a lot there to improve on. Like the grunts, the brutes in general, they look a little bit outdated. Really outdated in terms of probably skin, the way they move, the way their teeth are modeled. They're not really quite there on the same quality level, let's say, of Cortana or Master Chief. I think there's a need for more attention to these enemies, especially when they're a little bit special, or you're gonna see them or encounter them every time, right? So I think there's a little bit to take care on there in that area. I really like the direction and interaction between the weapon, that's how they're calling it, the weapon and Master Chief. It's very nice. Now in this area I'm going to show you something that strikes me as odd, right? Like this is something on the main story, and you can see this, for example, look at this texture, what's happening here. Kind of makes you feel that there's a little bit of lack of detail. And I know this is a huge map and we're supposed to encounter these type of errors, to say it in a way, fairly often, but really that's the first time I found one of these here. You can see the quality, like you see this and you feel the quality of the assets. Look at this. So in this area you're gonna see one of the items that I was mentioning about having assets with extremely high quality and then assets that doesn't quite cut it there or on the same level of details. For example, look at this door. It looks horrible. Looks like unattention, like it was not done with care. And look at this metallic part. You can see the texture bumping. You can see the lighting reflecting. Kind of makes you feel like the game was designed by a lot of different people and a little bit of oversight, which kind of makes sense because of the size of the map. But I still think that every asset has to be inspected for quality. So overall, I feel that the campaign direction that the game took is definitely good. This is the best campaign, hands down, that 343 has produced over their mantle of the Halo series, and I hope we only go up from here. In terms of optimization, especially in the PC landscape, it feels like the game is not really well optimized, and playing at a high frame rate feels like a hurdle. Even with high-end computers, the game feels way too demanding. In which way, would you ask? It feels that the computational cost of having high frame rate does not correlate with the actual graphic quality that I'm receiving. Let's just try to phrase it again. It feels that the frame rate is very low for the graphical load that is on the map. From what I'm seeing, it feels like the game is extremely demanding. I'm not getting that quality back, right? I really like the RPG style of the campaign. I really love it, and how Master Chief gets his upgrades. I really love it. So now let's talk about what I think it's the end game for this company, the end game for 343 and the end game for Halo Infinite. In this case, it seems that 343 has finally found the sweet spot to maintain the game alive with a healthy population, and especially to attract the PC customer. This is the so-called game as a service model. Some people might have you confused, and there's a little bit of a fight on social media, and they want to call it a freemium or maybe pay to win, or that the cosmetics are way too high. The reality, I think, is more of a self-discovery journey. Remember, this is the first time for a Microsoft game that they release a game as a service and a game that is free. Please remember this. This is the first. It's a first for Microsoft. Based on the events that happen in Raleigh Halo Competitional Series, it feels like there's still some bugs to iron out, especially on the technical side with the PC user, and the 343 is really working here to make it happen. I think Halo is on its best moment yet, and it feels that this is only gonna go up from here. Having Halo multiplayer free for everyone will make this a Halo classic, and everyone will want to play. The multiplayer in terms of feeling, gaming, feels good. In terms of map, I prefer to have 3, 4, or even 5 very good maps than having 7, 8, 9, 10, even 12 very poorly designed maps, because I really prefer to have quality over quantity. I'm happy with this, and I prefer a conservative approach. This is what they have done, and I agree with them 100%. So also, there's another issues and concerns regarding input lag and the so-called client-server desync. The input lag subject, it's a little bit tight-lipped because 343 really works on it on the background, and they kind of acknowledge it after they do a patch update. That's the way it was with Halo MCC. So they say like, okay, yeah, we'll work on this, but you don't really get an update until you actually get a patch with notes and you realize that something has been modified. And also the client-server desync is noticeable, especially when you're playing multiplayer, and the weapon seems to perform differently when the ping is higher than 90 milliseconds. So this is kind of a problem when you're playing when, for example, in Europe, and sometimes you're playing even in the US, and then you get assigned a server in Europe, and then you're gonna feel this lag. It becomes a problem. The weapons, they feel balanced and useful. Every weapon can be honed and used to perfection. The BR feels solid, and the Mangler is the new kid on the block. After closely watching the HCS series in Raleigh, I was impressed how every pro player grabbed every weapon on the map and they tried to use it to their best, including plasma pistol, Mangler, plasma rifle, energy sword. The conclusion of this video essay is simple. This is the best Halo in the modern era. It is a game to enjoy with your friends, casually and even competitive in a ranked arena setting. Enjoy this game, because this will be probably the last multiplayer release for Halo Infinite, since I believe they're gonna keep updating what we now know as Halo Infinite multiplayer, and they might even switch the engines later on, but I think we'll get Halo Infinite for a long time, especially in the multiplayer section. The campaign, we may get some DLCs, and I think this is a very good approach on 343. I think this is a way to go and to keep the game alive and healthy. And you know, they need to know and they need to understand that they need to keep putting out content, because with a game as a service, content is king, and content makes people want to come back. So see you on the next one, and hope you liked and enjoy this game. Bye.